We hear about new IT certifications all the time, and honestly, it can feel like just another badge to collect. But today, we're talking about one that seems to operate on a completely different level, the AZ-120 Microsoft certification for SAP on Azure. What makes this one so special?
That's the perfect way to frame it. The AZ-120 isn't just a general IT cert. It's the credential that says you can run the world's most complex enterprise software, SAP, on Microsoft's massive cloud, Azure. This is about the intersection of two absolute giants.
Right, so it's not just about knowing how to spin up a server in Azure.
Not at all. Think of it this way. Companies are desperate for people who can speak both SAP and cloud. SAP is like the central nervous system for thousands of global corporations. If you try to move that to the cloud and you don't do it perfectly, the entire business can grind to a halt. It's like putting a Ferrari engine into a high-tech smart chassis. You need a very specific set of skills to make sure it doesn't just fall apart at 200 miles per hour.
So it's clear the stakes are high for the companies, which means the exam itself isn't exactly a walk in the park. Let's look at what the actual battlefield of the test looks like.
The exam itself is a 2-hour marathon with about 40 to 60 questions. You need a score of 700 to pass, and it covers everything from the initial infrastructure design all the way to high availability and disaster recovery. It's only valid for 2 years, and while technically anyone can take it, Microsoft heavily recommends you have a background in both Azure and SAP workloads.
That recommended experience feels like a polite warning.
It's a huge warning. This isn't an exam you can just wing with a weekend of reading. A big chunk of it tests you on disaster recovery, which is basically Microsoft asking, can we trust you to keep a multi-million-dollar system alive when things go horribly wrong at 3 a.m.?
That makes sense. It's not just an academic exercise.
Exactly. Think about it. High availability and disaster recovery are usually just single chapters in other exams. Here, they are core pillars. If an SAP system goes down, we're talking about factory production lines stopping, supply chains freezing, even payrolls not going out. The exam is specifically designed to filter out anyone who doesn't understand that level of urgency.
So it's less about memorizing features and more about demonstrating that you can architect a system that fundamentally will not fail.
Precisely. If the exam is that intense, then the preparation strategy has to be equally precise. This brings us to the toolkit candidates are using to survive this.
Right. To prepare, many candidates are moving beyond just the official guides. They're using resources like Spoto's practice exams, which offer around 200 to 300 questions that are mirrored from the actual test. I found it interesting that these platforms even provide remote server access, so you can simulate the exam environment and get help from tutors.
That remote server access is an absolute game changer. I mean, a lot of people don't fail because they don't know the content. They fail because of the pressure of the unfamiliar interface and the clock ticking. If you've already seen the layout and the style of the questions 300 times before you walk into the real thing, your anxiety just plummets. It's the difference between reading a flight manual and actually logging hours in a flight simulator.
Exactly. It's about eliminating surprises. By the time you sit the real exam, you've already flown the mission dozens of times. So, for someone considering this path, what are the final, most critical things to remember?
Well, I'd boil it down to 4 points. First, this is a high-stakes specialization. It's a niche, high-value cert that bridges two worlds, making you essential. Second, the standards are rigorous. A 2-hour exam with a high pass mark, focusing heavily on keeping systems from failing. Third, experience is basically required. You really need to understand both Azure and SAP logic before you even try. And finally, your prep should be led by simulation. Use tools like practice dumps and remote servers to build that muscle memory. It's the smartest way to guarantee you're ready.